Hello, what up? It's Sean, your movie madman, and I'm back. Today is our 4th book versus film video, so that's very exciting. It is. Alright, today we're going to be talking about these bad boys. The Maze Runner, the Maze Runner, and the Maze Runner. Funny that, because only one of the books is called The Maze Runner. And then you've got the Scorch Trials, which is the second one, and then you've got the Death Cure, which is the third one. And then, just to get more confusing, there's 2 other books as well, which haven't been made into films yet. I hear The Kill Order is being made into a film, but I don't know if it was cancelled after the Death Cure was released, because the Death Cure didn't do too well in the cinema. So we're going to go over a lot today. I hope that's alright. First off, I'm going to talk about this bad boy, the Maze Runner. Now, comparing this to this, it's quite interesting actually, considering the book is about twice as violent as the film. You'll see the sneaky 15 rating on there as well. This is the uncut version of the first one. The first one was cut down to a 12A for the cinema. They cut out one shot of someone's injury and someone being sick, and a couple of close-ups of screaming spiders. Screaming spiders makes it a 15 apparently. Close-ups of screaming spiders. It's a strong threat according to the BBFC. So there's a back cover as well. And there's a back cover of the book, which is quite exciting. Comparing the book and the film, I would say the book was better, but also on a comparative wise, there's just more detail in the book. There's a lot more character development in the book. You understand what's going on a lot more in the book, whereas in the film it's just left up in the air a little bit. 4K wise, it looks good. If you like a good 4K maze running movie, then it's a good 4K film. Some of the CGI looks a little bit shocking in 4K, but it's still a good upgrade from the Blu-ray. I think the book's better just because the book explains a lot more of what's going on and all that sort of thing. But in comparison to the film, they do well to get the details from the book into the film, which is a good start. So, you know, it's a 50-50 for me. I really like the first film. I really like all 3 films, to be fair, until I read the books, but we'll go there in a minute. But comparing the book to the film, the book for the first Maze Runner is definitely better. Then we come along to this one, the Scorch Trials. Again, the Scorch Trials was a 12A in the cinema. You see the cheeky 15 rating on there. There's a lot more in this. It's not just close-ups of screaming spiders. It's very zombie-ish. It's the second one and the third one. There's a lot of close-ups of zombies. I believe there's a bit where you see a zombie biting off the head of a rat and all this sort of thing. There's just a lot more horror in this one and the third one. It's called Maze Runner Scorch Trials, just in case people weren't aware that it was attached to the Maze Runner, so I think they just put Maze Runner on there as well. As you can see, the book is just called The Scorch Trials, and there's your back covers as well, so it's quite exciting. Comparing the book to the film is absolutely shocking in comparison to the book, I'll tell you that. When I read the book, I really enjoyed the book. When I saw the film, I really enjoyed the film, but then I read the book, and I think there's maybe 2 things in the book that happen in the film, and one of them is a character getting struck by lightning. So it's absolutely ridiculous. I get the feeling that whoever made the Scorch Trials didn't even read the book. When I read the book, I was so surprised. I literally felt like I was reading a completely different book in comparison to the actual film. So if you're going to compare the book to the film for this one, the book is better, but on a comparative wise of what they got in the book in the film, it's absolutely shocking. One of the worst book to film transfers, if you could call it, that I've ever seen. It started putting me off the Maze Runner when I read the Scorch Trials. Not only did I see how much better the book was to the film, but I saw how different it was. It just made me start thinking, why didn't they just do that in the film? Why didn't they just do that in the film instead of doing that? Why didn't they just do this in the film instead of doing that? They basically just made the story up. Which moves me on to the Death Cure and the Death Cure. Now, interestingly, this is a 12. It was a 12 in the cinema, and I read the censorship report saying that it was cut down to a 12 in the cinema, but then when it came out it was still a 12, and I was like, what? Pretty sure, because I watched this one quite a few times in the cinema because I was really big fan of the Maze Runner when the third one came out. I hadn't read any of the books by then, but when the third one came out in the cinema I watched it a lot. Then when it came out I bought this. Well, I didn't buy this, I bought it on Blu-ray first, and I got the Steelbook edition, because if you get the Steelbook editions you get the uncut versions, or so you did for the first two, and it was just a 12, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. But then when I watched it, it still felt like there were a couple of little extended bits in there, and I was like, so if it's a 12 on the Blu-ray, why couldn't you have just made it a 12 in the cinema and left those bits in? So I don't really understand, because there's no censorship report on Movie Censorship, the website, that says what's cut out, whereas there is for the first two. So I'm a little bit confused as to what version I've got, because I've also bought it and got it imported from America to get the PG-13 version, which would be the same as the 15 versions of those two, and it was exactly the same as this. I was a bit disappointed getting it imported to find out that it was exactly the same, but we won't go there. In comparison with the book, there's so much in this film that is really stupid, and I just think, even when I watched the film, I just thought it was a bit silly. A lot of it. Some of the explanations they give, you're just like, right, okay. When you read the book, you can see the book explains everything. The book makes sense, and the book isn't stupid. It's a little bit better than comparison from the book to the Scorch Trials. It is a little bit better from that perspective of things, but I don't know, like, the idea of it being called the death cure in the book is because in order for them to get the cure somebody had to die, whereas in the film they're just like, oh, it's in someone's blood. And you're like, what? Read the book. Definitely read the book. The book's so much better. From a 4K point of view, all three films do look good in 4K. Some of the CGI is a little bit shocking in those three films, but they're good looking 4Ks. I've been put off a lot more by the films now. I used to love watching them so much, but I just get put off watching them now. Now I've read the books, I'm just like, these films are shocking in comparison. I've got these two as well. Now the kill order, from what I understand, the kill order is set before the Maze Runner, and I believe that the Fever Code is set before the Maze Runner as well, or set in the world of the Maze Runner sort of thing. Even says prequel to the Maze Runner on the book there, and this is just like an origin story. So whether or not they actually go out of their way to make these books into films, I don't know. They might do, they might not, because the Death Cure didn't do too well in the cinema. The chances are they might put it on hold and not. They were going to make the Death Cure into 2 films like they did with Twilight and Harry Potter, but I think Warner Brothers were like, no, we're not giving you that much money. You can make this into 1 film, and you're lucky that that is being made as well, considering the main guy had an accident during the filming of the 3rd film, so the film was put on hold for like 1.5 years until he was better again. So they'd already spent loads of extra money anyway in that perspective. But I mean, I enjoyed them all. I enjoyed all the films until I read the books, basically. So either, if you like the films and you think, oh, I'll read the books, don't, because the books will spoil the films for you and it'll make you not want to watch the films again. If you've read the books, I'd say don't bother watching the films, because it will just annoy you and you'll be like, this is so stupid compared to the books. But if you've seen the films, you enjoy the films, I'd say just leave it at that. Don't read the books, because it will ruin your perspective on the films like it did for me. Alright? Good. Right, so that's it for today. I'm going to go now. If you could like this video, I'd really appreciate that. If you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be really nice. But that's it from me. I'll see you again in another video. Goodbye.